Zoom Team Chat is by far the most powerful tool in the Zoom arsenal. Hands down, no second place. We're not debating this. It's not up for negotiation. Zoom Team Chat is by far the most powerful tool in the Zoom arsenal. And it just got even better. Slack migration tool. That's right. Zoom now has a Slack migration tool allowing you as users to be able to move your data from Slack to Zoom Team Chat. Why would you do it? We're going to talk about that next. Well, again, this is one of those rare moments where I have a guest in the studio or on the show, or however you like to say it. And in true PK fashion and tattooed nerd fashion, I always get guests that are smarter than me. And Mike's been on the show before, so he knows the drill, and he's agreed to be a victim again. Thank you, Mike, for showing up.
Thanks for having me, PK. There wasn't enough pain last time, so I decided to accept your invitation again this time. And the audience seemed to love the video that we put together on the Team Chat deep dive demo with some comments and reactions. So let's pick up where we left off and give them a little bit more of what's on the top of our minds.
I think everyone has succumbed to chat and texting as taking over for phone and email in today's world on how we communicate first, right? Is certainly email and fax and phone are never going away anytime soon. But an easier, quicker, more effective, more efficient way has transcended upon us the last probably 4 and 5 years, right? Is texting, it's persistent chat, it's instant messaging with colleagues and coworkers, and Zoom and it's all its glory, of course, is a UCAS company, or actually was a UCAS company for a while, right? People are going to say, hey, what are you talking about, Patrick? Well, then we became a CCAS company, right? Then we're a rooms company, a digital signage company, and a chat company. Now we're a much bigger platform than just UCAS, because chat is a big part of that story today. And as we dive forward, if anybody watches Zoom lately, you can see we're driving headfirst into Zoom Team Chat and this strategy. Would you agree?
100%. The investment continues on. And for those larger businesses and smaller ones, if you haven't taken a look lately, there is still a perception by some, not the masses, that it's still just in meeting chat and that it's not persistent chat with all the channels, private and public, and your file sharing and apps and integrations and all that. And so we're basically here to remind the world that no, this is totally separate from that. But because you just mentioned the entire platform, Zoom isn't just launching our persistent chat solution that we call Team Chat, but we're always figuring out how do we integrate it better with meetings, with mail and calendar, with contact center, with phone, with SMS, and the list goes on. So the experience gets exponentially better when you think about, yes, we have all the features that most people want on a day-to-day basis that might touch Microsoft Teams or Slack. So where do we go from here? That's really what we're here to talk about.
I'm going to date myself because I have a lot more gray hair than most people. And I'm going to remember when I used to work for Microsoft years ago, there was a company that they had bought called Parlano, which did persistent chat. This is years and years ago. And then Microsoft came up with this cool thing called OCS, or Office Communication Server. And on part of it was this thing called group chat, right? It was something that no one really had done before. Everybody was doing instant messaging with even Yahoo and AOL. Remember all those things, and instant messenger. But then a company came along and created this true enterprise solution. And Slack came along and kind of blew everyone out of the water with this new way to collaborate and communicate beyond just email, beyond just instant messaging. And it certainly set the world ablaze. And Microsoft and everybody, I think, was caught off guard by the speed that Slack really took over. But now here's kind of a crazy question I'm going to ask: is that as Microsoft Teams, as Zoom Team Chat have exponentially grown in this space, when we're talking to customers, or when you're talking to customers, especially CIOs and decision makers of IT, why are they considering a move away from Slack nowadays?
It's a great question. And I love some of the history in the background there. I think we could all use Microsoft as our barometer of whether you came in the OCS days or Link or Skype or all the different flavors, or maybe you're newer, so you only know Microsoft Teams. Um, but when I'm talking with CIOs and I'm out there in the field, whether some account executives that are bringing me into existing opportunities, or whether they just want to understand where Zoom is going with the entire platform, there's a consistent theme that's going on right now, which is I have this outlier of a platform with Slack in which we're spending a lot of money and budgeting for not only this year, but for next year on a monthly basis. I need to reevaluate that as a CIO. Is status quo still good enough where my team has to build the hooks into other platforms? And that's where it's at least one separate platform for us running Slack. And so I've got to look at that as a CIO and constantly think, is that the right solution going forward? Because there's there's factors that I really have to tackle head on, which is consolidation and cost for all those different apps, and I have to be able to justify that on a go forward basis because it is another app that lives on my user's desktop, their mobile devices, their tablets that our team has to manage and log into different portals. So that's where CIOs are starting to reevaluate, is status quo still the right direction with Slack?
I'm gonna have you double click into something you said a little further, in that I think in the last probably 6 months, maybe 12, cost cutting measures are part of literally any IT organization's philosophy, right? Is that now as a CIO, now as an IT decision maker, you have to truly understand where you're going as a company, because you have to go to the CFO and ask for funding for all those things, right? So if we click on that further and get beyond just features and talk about features later, why did you state, is really where I want you to expound upon that, is why did you state at least one separate platform and cutting cost, right? It's like Slack is one platform, right? Slack is one platform. So what did you mean by that when you with that comment about cutting costs? And can you relate maybe the two for us?
Yeah. So when you think about Slack, sometimes you have to remember that if you're a larger organization, or maybe you've gone through some different mergers and acquisitions and you're just a moderatized business, that's important for you to think, oh, wait, do you have that enterprise grid plan? And if you do, you might have multiple workspaces. And so even though everybody loves in Slack the ability to click between those different workspaces, I don't particularly like that. That means I need to go check those unread messages and find out if they're important or just a calendar notification. But that means admins need to actually connect up each different workspace and go to a portal and deal with SSO, DLP, e-discovery, chat history, retention, risk, compliance, and even just enabling or disabling a feature set for your user base to either take advantage of it or restrict them because you want to limit the risk if they're going to communicate externally in what they call Slack Connect. Um, we have all of those solutions. So now is the time to think, how many hours a day, a week, or per year does your IT team spend managing all that? And if you do have more than one workspace, that's actually like managing multiple vendors because they have to go to each different workspace and look at those settings. And there are tools to try to consolidate that effort, but you still have a lot of effort by your IT team. And, I mean, why don't you answer this? If I can cut out a portal and a platform for you and all the added costs there, what would you think if you were the CIO?
That's funny because I have these cost cutting, duplicative spend, optimizing spend conversations in probably every single EBC with CIOs and IT decision makers on this exact topic, and it gets down to, hey, what are my true cost of a solution? And because I think we're all guilty of, when we look at the cost of something, we look at the immediate cost of what it costs just to buy it, right? That, hey, what is your Slack cost, per user per month from a licensing perspective, right? And we'll compare that to Zoom. Like Zoom, again, we're a subscription based company, right? We literally buy Zoom just like Slack on a per month, on a per user basis, and we are an IT services company. So everyone's like, hey, what's the cost to buy it? And that's, by the way, an important question. And the easiest one to find the answer to is like, hey, it cost me $10 per month, or it cost me $15 a month. That's pretty easy math. What we haven't thought about is all the operational costs, all the deployment costs, all the support costs, all the training costs that are associated with any solution beyond once you buy it, right? And by the way, those costs are exponentially more typically than the cost of the license. And so that's what I really have to educate CIOs, CFOs on, is that peel back the onion a little bit on cost of your UCAS solution, your CCAS solution, your chatting solution, because it's a lot more expensive than you thought originally.
Exactly. And so many people do focus on the hard costs because it's easy to just grab and open up Excel and figure out how many users you have and how much you pay per user per month. And usually there aren't maintenance costs as much anymore that you have to factor in. But your IT team, they have to spend time on that. And let's not forget opportunity cost. Let's say you're evaluating acquisitions and you want more fun stuff involved with your IT team. You want them to be a part of the due diligence phase. What's it going to cost to be able to put together a Google environment from the acquisition with Microsoft or their productivity suite?
Yeah.
They want to be doing that, not necessarily looking at how can I go ahead and change a feature or turn on settings within Slack when they then have to log into Zoom and adjust similar settings for our other UCAS solutions. So there's a whole lot that goes into it. Now they're starting to focus on how can I take some effort, that opportunity cost for my IT team, and shift it to where it's a more strategic goal. And they're going to have more fun doing it as well. They are asking these days, I can go do that project for you, but can you take something else off my plate? Can you give me a couple hours back in the day rather than have me manage everything and keep layering on one more platform, one more solution?
And that leads to a whole other level of cost that I think a few studies have come out with. I think even Harvard Business Review has come out with a study that said, hey, on a per user, per cost basis, what does it take to actually switch from one application to another one from a user perspective? Right, you're in meetings from one maybe Zoom component, but then you could utilize Slack from a chat component. What if I could stop that switching? Right? What if I could keep all that context inside of one application instead of going to two applications to do two different things? And also from an administrative perspective, what if I could administer this entire so what if from an IT perspective, I could also reduce those costs, right? Instead of administrating two different platforms, I'm administrating everything from one platform, and not only from one platform, one portal. Think about that from a Zoom perspective. I can literally admin every single thing from one portal: phones, meetings, chat, rooms, AI, contact center, one portal. Extend that into users using the same app from one application. And now I have significant cost savings from an effective efficiency perspective, but also I've lowered context switching from admin and apps. I've increased application affinity, so much so that Harvard Business Review said the average knowledge worker, information worker wastes 9% of their day going between apps to do their job. What if Zoom, we can really decrease that ability and you can do everything inside of Zoom? And then and then Forrester actually came back and said, Zoom is so easy to use and administer that you can actually increase productivity by 52 minutes per week per user. Those are significant savings above and beyond the cost of the license and the deployment and administration.
I think if I took an extra 52 minutes a week and applied that just towards working out, I would probably drop a couple of pounds every week and not have to invest any extra time and effort in it. So I'll definitely take that time back.
Mike, I played football in college, but I never tackled an elephant. It felt like it a few times, but I'm going to try to tackle two elephants that are in the room right now. So let's tackle the first of the two. And shall we say my company, right, has been using Slack for a few years, right? And everyone loves it. Absolutely loves it from the end user all the way to the admin. So how am I going to break through, right, through that culture that when I talk to companies of users that love Slack And I'm going to come in and tell them, by the way, Zoom Team Chat can do what you do every day with Slack.
Yeah. Well, if we're going to tackle elephants, I'll go low, you go high. All right. That's how we're going to get that elephant to the ground. Um, well, let's remind everybody change is hard, but it's not like it hasn't been done before. You and I have both already alluded to previous experiences with Link and OCS. Some had Jabber. And then you've got the Mitel and the Avaya world where unified communications platforms had their own. So they've already done it to get to Slack.
Mm.
So it's not like it hasn't been done before. It's just now that over the years, if you've had Slack, you've entrenched yourself a little bit further into some of that message history. Um, so we want to go back to the foundation, right? Engineers and developers, they started it and it proliferated throughout the business. Several years ago, you never had a salesperson or somebody in marketing going, I can't do my job because I don't have Slack. Go get me Slack.
Yeah.
No, you get advocates and people that now start to see the value, in this case, Zoom Team Chat, and get their hands in there and showcase they're not losing feature functionality. They're going to get more. And when they take advantage of one major thing, like to be able to chat before, during, and after a meeting and have that one consistent, seamless experience, then the momentum will still build. And then it's just foundational tactics of change management, communicating what you're doing and why. And to their audience, it's not about cost savings. It's about a user experience that improves and then saving the IT team some time because that's what they're going to buy into. Then you pull those advocates in closer, and then we'll go after some of the other audience that is going to give some resistance. So there's no difference in change management there. And we can tackle that. Stay away from the cost cutting moment. Let them do their own deductions. We're focused on a better user experience and an overall solution.
That is a perfect answer because it segues into he might be a bigger elephant, Mike. That might be a little bit bigger elephant in that back in the day, I cut my teeth and put a few kids through college doing email migrations, right? There's just what you had to do to get from one platform to the next. And data, it was king. Data where it resides was king. Users stick where the data is at. So I'm going to lead you down the second elephant in the room, and that is migrations are difficult no matter what the technology, right? Because of that change management that's involved in moving data. But what about all the chat history, right? All the chat data, all the files that have been accrued over the years utilizing Slack. How we tackling this elephant, Mike?
Yeah, well, luckily, Zoom has some of the best engineers and software developers and product people in the world, right? So we've got two approaches, which is we built the automation tool for you already. It's free for our customers. You can go right to the app marketplace and search migration and then just click on the team chat migration today. So we focused on how do we take all of your channels, public, your private conversations of direct messaging, group chats, private channels. How do we take all of that messaging, threaded replies, and files and move it over to our platform? We've already built that for you so that you have a dashboard and you can manage the migrations and you can do it in chunks. You can do it in several different ways to be able to move over that messaging. So that's one thing. That's the next finish of an app that can do the work for you. But before you get to that point, we've written a migration playbook. This is where the effort comes in. It's a communication plan that you're going to want to work with your corporate team on. It's translating features from Slack into the Zoom Team Chat world. It's giving you different ways to tackle your apps, your integrations, and your workflows. That's a big bucket. We've got a whole section just on that alone, because now if we can plan out that area, we turn our attention towards training of end users and admins on some of the additional features with Team Chat. We do all that for you. Now we can get started on a plan to go ahead and focus on moving your users in a responsible, seamless way over to our platform and give them that history so they can pick up right where they left off.
Well, it sounds, Michael, like maybe this audience should tune into another video about planning and using our Slack migration tool for their replicating that historical data from Slack to Zoom Team Chat.
Yeah, let's show them. Let's show them exactly how easy it is, because seeing is believing. And then at that point, then we can start planning things out. Yeah.
Okay, I'm now you got me excited. Now it's demo time, right? Is it demo time?
Yeah. Oh, it's demo time. Let's fire it up. Let's see some clicks. Let's see it happen. Magic. Your Slack conversations in team chat minutes later.
So I think, Mike, most of the time when I do videos, I usually have three audiences is what I narrow it down to. It's one audience is just users, right? And nothing wrong with just users. We need audiences that are just users like me that say, hey, that's a cool new feature. I didn't know we could do that, right? And then I put it into practice. That's one level. And then there's the level where we talk to CIOs or CEOs about the philosophy, the roadmap, the strategies of what Zoom's doing and how they're going forward. But I think a very important part of this video that we're going to talk about now is to the IT demo nerd. Those guys are really what turn the wheels and make all this stuff work, right from behind the green curtain. Showcase from a demo perspective, not necessarily what it looks like from a user or a CIO level, but what does it look like to move data as an IT admin?
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, I love being in front of customers, CIOs, talking about the value of businesses or working with product and our strategy and our vision. But sometimes I'm asked to do my job and put the technical and technical sales architect. So let's have a little fun, and I'll share my screen and we'll show you. If you understand the value of moving over to Zoom from Slack, well, then how does it actually come to life and look? So what you're seeing on my screen right now is the ability to go to our marketplace, Zoom Marketplace, and just search, just with a couple of letters. You can now hit Team Chat Migration. And so that's the app here. If I click the overview, I can go to the top. You see that I've already added it. I've done a lot of work for the audience already. I've migrated data. I've approved it for all users, and I've clicked Add. So now we're on to the point where let's use it. So I click Manage, and I come down here. When I click the Configure button, it takes us into our dashboard. And the first thing I want to do is come to this connection management screen. That is what's going to start to kick off the process of, hey, let's make Zoom talk to Slack. Now, a reminder, because if you're looking at my browser tabs here, you're seeing Slack in other browser tabs here. So I'm signed into both environments with the same email address and the admins with permissions into your Zoom account. Because if I have to go to user management, roles, and then I'm an administrator. So I want to make sure under team chat management, you've got these two checkboxes, chats and channels. That gives the administrator the right ability to be able to kick off and run this migration. And you have the permissions to be an app admin in Slack. So back here to our dashboard, let's create a new connection. When you do that, look how it conveniently kicked me over to the Slack workspace that I'm signed in on. Always double check that it's the right workspace. Hammy, that's my fun workspace because it's short or a nickname for Hamilton. You click the allow button. That's what's going to now install the app into your Slack environment, and that's called Message Retriever. When you click on Message Retriever, that's when you can now look at the app a little bit further on the permissions and the functions and the app details here around the Message Retriever app itself. That's the app. It's a private app that we install for you, and you want to make sure that that's approved for Hammy. Members have been approved to install this app. That's a lot. So right now, we've installed it. We've authenticated it from the marketplace, and then we've used the dashboard to now connect over to the right workspace, because you can then take this one at a time to migrate multiple workspaces. And then we've made sure that we got the right permissions on the Slack side. All right. So if you're with me there, now that we've got I'll flip over to it, our workspace connected, Hammy, and you know that it's connected because my only action is to delete it. Now underneath migration jobs, I want to go ahead and create a migration job. We've made this pretty simple. So if you've connected multiple workspaces, you would see them listed here. I have one. And then I'm going to choose to move public channels, and we'll come back to private channels and direct messages, group chats in just a minute. We'll set this to migrate data. Let's just do it for the most recent 1 week to give you an example. And then we'll click submit. How about a little confirmation? Are you sure you want to get these dates? And if the channel name exists, import user's account will show as deactivated. That's key. You got to make sure that your users are pre-built in Zoom, email addresses match Slack. So we're good there. We'll click submit. Now it comes here to the bottom of the list. It's waiting, okay? Because at the moment, I have the job. It's laying in the dashboard, but I did this at 10:36 a.m. Eastern time, according to my system tray. So maybe I just want to go ahead tonight and trigger that to run at midnight. But because I'm tired, I don't want to think through that entire process. I can now just go click the run process, looking at 10 channels to be migrated. Kick off the run process. And now it's migrating. It flipped over in the dashboard. And then when that's done, I'll be able to click view details and it'll tell me exactly what it migrated. So this is using the open APIs from Slack, connecting, and then bringing the data to our platform for you, all of your public channels. Let's go back to create a new migration job. So you're now thinking, I want to bring over all my private conversations from here. Note, Slack makes sure that users authorize any app if it's to read their direct messages, private channels, and group chats. So we have to implement a little bit of a different policy or practice here that when I choose the same dates, it's a different migration job. Because when I click submit, I'm going to get a new authorization. We're going to generate an email to your users from at zoom.us to say you need to authorize the message retriever app. Your communication plan is going to notify them ahead of time that they're going to get this email, and they simply need to be signed into Zoom and click a button to authorize. That's it. And we have this expected deadline because I want to set that for maybe next Friday. We're planning. It's going to take time for users to go through that authorization process. And we know not everybody's going to do it. So we're going to click submit for authorization. And then we're going to arm you with additional tools here. Because with waiting, you can click view details. You can run the job now and confirm. No users have authorized it yet. And I click confirm. But I'm going to click view details here because now it's going to give me more information about that job. We'll even give you information to be able to download a CSV file or reauthorize users to be able to trigger an email back to their inbox. That's going to move all of your data in real time over to us, and then you'll get a completed status like I show here that all of your conversations move over to team chat. All of your public channels will be right there in the interface for you. It's in our database. They use the search methodology, or when you trigger a direct message or a group conversation with the user you've already communicated with, then the history shows up for you in front of you. Okay, we don't just want to flood you with thousands of direct messages and group chats all in your left-hand side panel all at once. We want the public channels to show up there. And then as needed, as you access previous conversations, private conversations will show up with all of your chat history, your files, your reactions, and so on and so forth. It's a good use, end-to-end, how you would migrate that data over to us. And you're off and running with Team Chat with your users right now.
Well, this is significant in that I don't believe any other of our competitors in the space provide a complete migration tool like we do, correct?
Nobody does it into Team Chat from Slack as a free service. There are partners, there are people out there with a paid engagement. You can get them to move you over to our service, but nobody in the market offers a free service. And because it's a Zoom built property, remember, we build at the speed of light here. We get applauded from our customers all the time. So if there are enhancements that we're going to get for this dashboard, the team is already planning for that and going to take those requests into account to make life easy.
And just like any migration, right, there's always best practices. It doesn't matter whether it's email, whether it's file storage data, whether it's chat data. There's certainly best practices that always apply and have applied for decades of a thorough plan before it's starting to click buttons, right? Like have timeframes before starting to click buttons, have communication, have change management in place, have training in place, all prior to start clicking buttons and moving data. These are just standard things of a best practice in any organization. I can imagine this is a very new technology to everybody because of chat. There's not a lot of chat migration out there. because it's such a new past 3, 4, 5 years technology that moving platforms hasn't been a big thing, but now it certainly is.
It absolutely is. And it's difficult to give up that chat history. The users really need to be able to refer back to conversations and don't want to lose it. If there's just one best practice that I would educate the audience on when you see a tool like that, let's use the example that I want to move over a year's worth of data. Because that's about how far people would go back to search to bring up conversations. I'm going to educate you to think about this. Go move over the 11th to 12th month that you want to bring to our platform. You migrate all those public channels. You now have a staging environment in our production instance where all those public channels are available for you. Have your users log in. They can adjust their permissions. They can create mention groups in there. They can now focus on the apps, the integrations, and the workflows. I want to go get that Jira app and put it into my channels. I want to grab the Confluence app, Asana app, Google Drive apps, and so on. Because now we're building those channels so that when you click that button to move over the most recent history, let's say of the last 3 months of data, because we worked our way up till Friday night, in which we click over the most recent data, you've had all that time of staging all the channels, the apps, the workflows, and the integrations. And let's not forget training. You want to train your users that their existing channels, how they all look and feel in the Zoom world. That is the most important thing. You can stage it all in advance and really temper down that change management and that anxiety that comes with flipping a platform over.
I think one of the things that you've said before that always seems to resonate is that we have to understand that Slack is truly a different platform and does things differently than Zoom. The point is, though, is that most of the things that you're doing in Slack can be translated to the Zoom world. It's not like they're missing, they're just done a little differently. And that's exactly where communication and training come involved when it comes to end users.
Exactly. A couple of the key ones that I get very frequently, like Slack Connect. Okay, we don't have a clean term on the Zoom side for that, but we've entirely architected everything around not only just team chat, but the entire platform that you can link organizations together. You can have an account to sub account structure. All the groups that you've already built, maybe for the meetings platform or phone and contact center, you can leverage the same groups you've already built to either permit or restrict them of external communications. And if you permit them, maybe you lock it down on a by domain basis or by user basis, because that legal counsel that's external to your organization, you really only interface with two of them in a 500-person attorney office. So let's just permit you to communicate with two of them by group. It's just configuring the right permissions and settings to restrict or allow to translate Slack Connect. And then there's other things like they call them saved items. Okay, well, we've got bookmarks here. You can bookmark messages, and we have reminders that translate one for one. So we definitely translate them over to our platform.
I think as we've had these discussions with companies, especially over the last year to 18 months, and everyone wants to do what we talked about earlier is how do we cut duplicative spend? How do we optimize our IT budget? How do we reduce cost? And I think the answer to a common answer was, hey, Zoom Team Chat is certainly a available option for users that are using persistent chat, instant messages, as well as channels. But when we were walking into companies that say, hey, we understand that, we would love to go there, but we're already using Slack, and there was this gap that we couldn't fill, that said, hey, we don't want to just greenfield everybody on Zoom Team Chat and have this historical data in Slack. We truly need a solution that can literally forklift that over so users are productive on Slack on day one and can literally be productive on Zoom Team Chat on day two after the migration. We filled that gap finally.
We have totally filled that gap. And if we took it one step further, you as that IT director, you're thinking about, oh, with Slack, but I also have my third party vendor for DLP or archiving, e-discovery. Well, given our APIs, we have the same methodology with Slack. So those vendors don't go anywhere. We can move over your history. It's just a little bit of a thought process of those vendors interfacing with the Zoom platform for team chat, which there are dozens of them. And the most common ones that businesses that have interfaced with Slack interface with Zoom team chat. So it's really an apples to apples type transition right there in working with third party vendors. But the story gets better now when you start to think about, oh, I also have webinars or events or meetings and chat. And when you think about the additional properties, recordings, transcriptions, now once again, we're seeing some of that consolidation into that third party vendor. The story only gets happier from there in terms of not having to have separate vendors just for Slack, but then the other vendors for Zoom. Now you can ideally leverage those vendors. Maybe you can even push them for some additional cost savings if you're putting more on them. I can't validate that you're actually going to definitely save, but you know what? If I'm in your shoes, I'm negotiating hard there.
100%. And that's one of the things that I think is one of the pillars of what Zoom has been doing the last few years is our extensibility platform and our development platform have allowed not only Zoom to create at a breathtaking speed, but has allowed our partners to create applications at a breathtaking speed to make this Zoom platform story even bigger than what we talked about earlier. I think if you wore that Zoom shirt, right, Mike, I think we all have our Zoom shirts, and we wore it, and we 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, we wore the grocery store, and everyone's like, oh my God, I love Zoom. They have such great meetings. And I think now when we go to the grocery store with our Zoom shirts on, there's the potential for people to come up to us and say, hey, I love Zoom meetings, but by the way, I love Zoom phone. I love digital signage. I love virtual agent. I love call center and engagement center. By the way, I love Zoom IQ for sales. I love Zoom IQ for AI intelligence. Oh, by the way, I love Zoom team chat. All these things we couldn't say 3 years ago, but now we can.
Now we can, and it's a great experience. Now, you use the example of the grocery store. For me, I love to go pick my daughter up from kindergarten. Yeah, it gets me a good little break mid-afternoon in the day. And I'm going to be looking forward to the aspect that I'm not the only one on my cell phone looking at team chat messages, responding in channels right there like you would do in Slack. You're going to go ahead and use it there. And, this is one of those things where let's not get caught as we think platform by the phrase Zoom IQ for sales. I love that. And this isn't all about sales. I use it all the time because I look at different demos I've done for customers or different situations that I've been in. And my two biggest use cases with that, and it's going to be worked where we're sharing more meetings properties into those chats and channels. You're seeing it right now with our new release of the Smart Meeting Summary. I love going back to that Zoom IQ for sales and then clipping a certain section of it because that's the most relevant piece. Okay, we all record Zoom meetings. Who's really looking back at a 30-minute or an hour-long meeting and watching the whole thing through?
Yeah.
Okay, you got too much time on your hands, maybe. But what if I clipped the relevant 6 minute or 8 minutes that is most valuable use of your time and I shared it to you and I can do that in a channel? That's what's really important. And then the other aspect is when it uses some AI to give me some notes and there's threads there, I can look at action items. We all forget during meetings, no matter how good you are at taking notes, that maybe something was said and now it's captured and you look at that. You go, that's right, I did follow up. But now let me just send that follow up to a customer because we have a private channel with them and give them that link to a support article or other property that they were asking about.
And not to give too much away, but I think both you and I know that in the coming months, the roadmap and strategy for Zoom when it comes to chat, in Zoom when it comes to chat integration with AI and making your life more effective and easier and more functional, people are going to be blown away with some of the things that are coming to chat from that perspective. But again, not to give too much away there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if we do things right too, let's stay true to our colors where we want to make AI enable people to interact better. We've done that for years at Zoom. Okay. So it's about using it either on the back end, but now we can't ignore that the market is pulling it to the forefront with any of the different vendors that we work with and against in terms of our solutions. It's enabling people. And the best AI type solutions are when you don't know about it on the back end, just that your privacy, security, and data teams is vetted exactly how Zoom is using it and protecting your privacy.
I've said it once, I'll say it again, and I think you and I have talked numerous hours on this topic. I think Zoom Team Chat is really the way we're revolutionizing communication, and I think it is at the forefront of where we begin and end our day. No longer do we do it in email at the beginning and end of every day. We do it in chat, and to expand that into every single modality, whether it's phone, whether it's meeting notes, whether it's meetings and webinars. I think that's the forefront of where we're going as a roadmap and a strategy. And another example of that with Slack migration tool. So thank you again, Mike, for bringing always the greatest and latest technology when it comes to Zoom Team Chat. I always enjoy our conversations and always learn way more from you than you have ever learned from me.
Well, it's a two-way street because I'm watching some of those videos too, and I love understanding more of the Microsoft ecosystem. I pay attention. So thanks for having me, and I'll look forward to the next time we get together and talk some team chat, really collaboration, because that's the actual market. We use the word chat too frequently. It's all about how do we collaborate and tie it together. So thanks, Patrick.
Thanks, Mike. Once again, Zoom Team Chat, by far the most powerful tool in the Zoom arsenal. I stand by that statement from the beginning of the video. I stand by it now. I hope you enjoyed that demo and that talk. Mike is a wealth of information. I'm happy to have him on my Global Architect team. I hope you enjoy videos like this, and if you do, follow me on LinkedIn. Also, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do work for Zoom as a distinguished architect, so I am a full-time employee of Zoom. However, I am not a figurehead or a spokesman for Zoom. I just like to talk about cool technology, and a lot of times that has to deal with Zoom. Have a great day.